Hello, Brooke. Today I want to talk to you about hyperfocus, which a lot of us ADHDers are familiar with, and flow state. Can you talk to me about the difference between each hyperfocus and flow
Sure.
state?
Sure. So flow is definitely a hot topic now that is being thrown around in the ADHD community and the neurotypical community. And those two terms can definitely be intertwined and confused between the differences because they're so similar but not. So flow is defined as like the optimal state of consciousness. So the father of flow, and excuse me if I'm butchering this, but his name is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He unfortunately died last year at 87, but he is the person who came up with this term flow. And it's a technical term, basically describes an experience where every decision, every action flows seamlessly, perfectly, effortlessly from the last. So think of like a flow feels flowy, like playing jazz, um, where action and awareness merge. You feel like you have this selflessness, timelessness, effortless, paradox of control, where we are powerful sense of control over the situation, intrinsic motivation, intense concentration, challenge, and skill balance. We have clear, not big goals, but clear, small goals and immediate feedback that we get.
Mhm.
So flow, it's important for us to recognize that it's not an all or nothing experience. It's a spectrum experience. And on paper, the components of flow, as mentioned, were the ones that I talked about before with the immediate feedback, the clear goals, the challenge, skills, and balance. So it's much more common to experience flow than hyper focusing.
Mhm.
So you ask, what's the difference? So many of us ADHDers get to a point where we get into this hyper focused state, and we can just focus on something and all time passes, and it's 8 hours later and we're still working on the thing, right? I know I've been there. I'm sure you've been there before. So you're probably like, well, how is that different than flow? So Dr. Sharon Saline kind of describes the difference between the two. Um, so when you're in hyper focus, you would not stop cleaning until it was well beyond what most consider clean, right? So that's an example that she uses. But if you're in flow state, you're flowing, right? Like we're not so zoomed into the task that we're not aware of our surroundings. And we just get into the flow of cleaning. We enjoy it. We put music on, we're dancing. And we're in the kitchen while we're cleaning. So if you just think like we're in the zone, but we're happy, we're flowing, like the jazz music that we described before. So that would be flow state. And the reason why we're not so zoomed in like we are with hyper focus is because when we get into a flow state, think of like high performance. 5 of the most potent neurochemicals the brain can produce, the norepinephrine, the dopamine, endorphins, anandamine, serotonin, they all amplify performance and increase the strength. And when all of that comes together, you experience flow, which is the pleasure drug. And people have tried to experience the state of ecstasy, essentially, with drugs before to get that feeling of flow. So a lot of people get it naturally. There are different ways of getting it, but as mentioned before, the difference between hyperfocus and flow is that the hyperfocus, you're going to do that thing until like it's totally done and you just zone out and nothing else is going on around you. But when you're flowing, like you're in it, you're enjoying it. So that's the simplest way.
Yes, you're in the zone essentially, and it sounds like flow state is like considered more of a positive experience where hyperfocus can have both a positive and negative consequence.
Exactly.
The positive experiences are just related to increased productivity, right?
Right. But you can burn out very
Mhm.
much. So after focusing for an extreme amount of time, and you could burn out with flow too. So you have to be careful with how you come down from flow, how you come down from hyper focus. I know that that Stephen Kotler talks a lot about how you can come down from it by doing something else. So this way you don't crash.
Yeah, and it's like flow state. It's more general. It's a state, and like hyper focus is it's kind of clinged on to, and it's associated with a particular task or a scenario or situation, right? And you were talking about how sometimes we clean. We're in the hyper focus of cleaning our area, and we kind of clean too much, or it's like say you going down a rabbit hole, you learn about something, and it's like you miss an appointment, or even
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Or for children, say they're playing video games and it's like their mom's calling them or they had to do their homework and it passed due. It's like those things where it's like those are the negative consequences, right?
Absolutely.
And so I wanna touch up a little bit more on Dr. Um excuse me if I'm pronouncing it wrong too. Csikszentmihalyi. He's the Hungarian psychologist, and he has a really he's the one who coined the term flow, if I'm not mistaken. And
Hmm.
he has a flow figure, diagram, chart, whatever you want to call it. And basically, what's on this chart is so it's there's two axes, the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis is a skill level, with low being low amount of skill and high being a high skill level. And the y-axis is challenge, low challenge, high challenge. There it is. There you go. So essentially, what you're looking at over here is we'll start off with anxiety, for example. If you have a low skill set and a high amount of challenge, that's anxiety right there. That you're alert, you're stressed. That's what corner you're in. Now, say you are in the flow state. You have a high level of skill and a high challenge, and you're stuck and you're enjoying it. You're thriving. Exactly what you talked about, Brooke. You're thriving in that setting. And that's where the flow state is achieved in that corner where you have a high skill set and high challenge. And then you have, for example, the relaxation area. You're confident. There's not that much challenge and your skill set is high. You have the apathy all the way to the left where you have a low skill set and low challenge. Um, and I mean, I really, this graph really shows it well. And it's not that bad from my point of view to be in that. It's not like the end of the world to be in the anxiety corner or the relaxation corner. We all have those moments because I feel like, sometimes you got to be in that anxiety corner to flow into that state, to learn,
Correct.
to challenge yourself. You need to throw yourself in the fire sometimes, not too much, obviously, you don't want to burn yourself, but, and sometimes you're in the relaxation. Sometimes you're really good at something and you're just having a good time. And so I think, this little flow, graph that you showed us, Brooke, it's a great little visual on how all this stuff works. And
Yeah. And if I could just interrupt real quick, you had mentioned anxiety. It's not bad to be there. So, Stephen Kotler, who also talks a lot about flow and he takes a lot of the principles from, I'm going to call him Dr. C. He says that anxiety and excitement are very close in feeling. So if you say, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited, 3 times when you're anxious, it can actually get you to that performance stage and to that flow stage.
Mhm.
So it can get you from anxiety, arousal to flow. So sometimes you just need to get through there to get to the flow stage.
100%. And sometimes you might be asking questions right now on, for example, say you're reading, say you're watching TV. Is that considered flow state? Now, I want to touch up on that a little bit, and I looked into this a little bit because I had this question, and for you to be in a flow state, there has to be some amount of challenge. So, say you're watching TV, yeah, you want to keep up. What are the metaphors? What are the storylines? What's the plot? What's the character development all about? But realistically, if you were to walk away, the movie's going to continue going on. It's going to continue playing. So it's the only, I feel like the only people who are actually in the flow state during the movie are the critics who are actually taking that challenge and really analyzing and judging the movie. So these are reading a book or watching TV, these are passive actions and passive situations. A flow state is more of like an actual thing you're doing and you're in control of, to a certain extent. But I just want to touch up on that a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you for that distinction.
Yes.